Hello everyone, and welcome to Galaxy 89 Cars. Now today I've been filming with the car behind me, which is an AC Schnitzer ACS1 Sport. Now I've got this car from Renaissance Classics, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I've had several cars from them, like the Bullet Mustang, the Track Porsche, and of course the Ferrari F430 Spider. As I've never really featured any kind of modified cars on my channel before, I thought it would be interesting to kind of make a separate video other than my in-depth tour on the car behind me. So what I'm going to do is go through some of the key details about this car, what it's based on, what modifications it's got, and then the result of the modifications. So this car starts out life as a BMW M140i. Now that's obviously BMW's kind of main hot hatch front twin scroll turbocharged straight six that produces around 335 brake horsepower. Now these have kind of a cult following, really, just the M140i's, because in the kind of hot hatch sector they mark out quite an individual offering, really, because you've still got the six-cylinder engine in the front, and they're still reasonably priced. I mean, you can get these, fairly new for 25, that sort of mark, £1,000. So got a really good powertrain. Sounds great even without any of the AC Schnitzer stuff, and it's actually reasonably priced, so these are quite popular. Now in total, this car has at least £10,000 worth of AC Schnitzer upgrades. These are both aerodynamic, in terms of suspension, exhaust and powertrain, and a couple other bits on the inside as well. What I'll do is I'll go through all of those individually. So to start off, we have these enhanced sections down here. Just these bits right here. You can tell this is an M140i right from the front because of these additional parts here. They come standard from BMW. All of the kind of M Performance hot hatches have them. So beginning, we start with this little bit down here, which actually I think really makes the front of the car look a lot more aggressive, but not overdone actually. And in terms of getting over speed bumps, what I've found is it's fine. It's not really much different than the stock version. Down here you can have a chrome grille with struts that go across. The Renaissance haven't gone for that on this one, but I also think that could probably create a more potentially classic BMW aesthetic. We've got a little mark down there and a sticker here. The mirror caps here are going to go carbon fibre, and I think that's going to look really, really good. We have alloy wheels. The upgraded alloys, we've got 19-inch at the front, and they've gone for this kind of stealth kind of finish to kind of go with the paint. 19 at the rear as well. Now with the AC Schnitzer options, you can go for, there are several different wheel types and different wheel colours. You can get a 19-inch front and 20-inch rear, but like we've just seen, this has got 19 to both sides, both ends. So another AC Schnitzer sticker down there. Pretty much everything else is the same in terms of just the aesthetic stuff, and we've got this additional lip spoiler up here, which is quite small and it's quite subtle, but I think it really helps with the sort of stance of the car. Once again, nothing at the rear other than a couple of stickers and exhaust system, which I'll go into in a second. Now in terms of the sort of mechanical and powertrain based upgrades, we haven't changed the brakes. These are standard M Performance brakes. However, as you can probably see from the distance between the wheel, the tyre and the rim itself, the car has been lowered. Now there are several different options from AC Schnitzer that you can get. This one has got the sport suspension system, so that's the dampers, springs, everything. And on this specific one, they are fixed dampers, they're not adjustable. The adjustable option is available, but it's a little bit more money. On the SE and Sport models, because all of these upgrades are possible right from the 114i, rather, up to the 140i. So on the Sport and SE, or SE and Sport models, the dampers, I think they bring the car down by 25mm, and on the M Sport version, so this and the M135i, they bring it down by 14mm. That's at the front and at the rear. And they reduce roll, they make the car a lot more stable, the kind of standard things that you would expect. There is a power upgrade in the engine, which we'll check out in a second, but this car has the AC Schnitzer exhaust system. Of course, it's dual exit anyway, even the standard system. There are two main systems you can get for this. Well, for this specific model, it's just basically the sports exhaust. And on the options, when you can spec it, there's a difference between having a German sort of, I think it's called the TUL, something like that, the German Auto Authority approved system, or you can have this system, which is the export system, because obviously I'm based in the UK, and basically it has an extra pipe that helps the sound resonate and basically make it a bit louder than the other system. We've got lots of crackles, a couple bangs, very, very crackly exhaust. If you've heard the M140i before, you'll know exactly what I mean. And of course, we'll check this out a bit later in the video. And it ends with these 90mm diameter AC Schnitzer exits here. You can have them in chrome, which they've gone for here, or you can have them in sort of a black. Which would you have? I think they look quite good, actually. So, in terms of the engine, so we just have to go in here, and with any BMW, you just have to pull this twice, which removes the need to have a catch on the front of the bonnet, which I think is actually a really, really good idea. Okay, so, like I said, this is originally was around 335 brake horsepower, but it's now had an ECU tune, thanks to AC Schnitzer. We can see the little badge up here. This engine is now pushing out 400 brake horsepower. So, in a car that's quite light already, it's got a lighter exhaust system, it's got a more rigid, lowered, lighter suspension system, and now the power's been brought up to a 400 brake horsepower. And you can, unfortunately I don't have any experience with the standard M140i, but this definitely feels very, very rapid. You can get a nice cover, AC Schnitzer like cover to go over here, but they haven't gone for that. It's not too expensive actually, but I suppose it depends really what you're looking for. So I'll put this down. And there's, so far, I think only one little addition on the inside. That is these little things here. So I don't know how you can see them. Just a little AC Schnitzer Sport gear shifters. So I've shown you all of the power upgrades, the ECU at the front, and of course the exhaust system at the rear, which adds a little bit of horsepower as well. But what does it actually mean for the economy of the car? So the quoted MPG of the standard cars is around 30 MPG for actual real-world combined driving. In this one, it's gone down to 17.7. Now, as far as I'm aware, that is driving in quite an aggressive manner in sport mode with the exhaust valves open, and you know, the unfortunate thing about having a good sports exhaust is that it sounds so good and you can play little games because the crackles and the pops are quite predictable. It's kind of quite fun to see how often you can get them and test the rev range to see when you can get them. Of course, that obviously negatively affects the MPG. But nevertheless, I'm sure if you put it into Eco Pro mode, which you can easily do just by pressing the button down here, that you could probably get it up into the mid-20s. This is just driving around town. If you're doing motorway driving, commuting in Eco Pro, I have no doubt that you could boost it quite significantly. So what I think I'm going to do now is start the car, we're going to go for a drive, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how it feels. So, making automotive YouTube videos as frequently as I do means I've had plenty of opportunities to explore some really interesting cars. What I've sort of got used to is using electric parking brakes. Now this has a manual parking brake, and that's not a unusual thing at all. Of course, I drive a car with a manual parking brake, so I kind of should be used to it. But whenever I test a car, they pretty much all have them now because they're all quite modern, and that's the sort of way it's done now. And with this, I keep forgetting it's got it. It keeps catching me out. Anyway, that's sort of beside any point, really. Jumping straight into how the car feels. Because the car doesn't have adaptive dampers, it means even from Eco Pro mode, the damping feel is exactly the same as it would be in Sport Plus. Now, this, like I said, this has the Sport suspension kit, but there's one above it which is an adaptive kit for this, which is known as the RS kit, which is a bit more money. So, straight off, you can already feel that the car is quite hunkered down, it feels quite squat. It also feels, there's very little roll, there's very accurate turn-in. However, as a consequence and a side effect, you can notice pretty much every single bump in the road. It's not uncomfortable, that's not what I'm saying at all. The padding in the seats does quite a good job of absorbing it, but you know, it does feel stiff. In terms of the sound, obviously I'm starting off in Eco Pro mode, as I've just said. The engine revs, because of the way that the drive modes are tuned, Eco Pro means that with each gear shift, the car will be shifting in lower revs than it would be in Sport or Sport Plus. And the valve-controlled exhaust system is closed. So at the moment, we can't actually hear very much coming from the rear of the car. But a bit later, I'll put it into Sport, and then we can really see how it sounds. As I showed just before starting this driving part of the video, I was on around 17 mpg. And that was basically with me driving the car around for a few hours in Sport, pretty much, just because I wanted to get a sense for how the car felt and sounded. Now driving in Eco Pro for literally only a few miles, the MPG has already gone up to 19. So like I was saying, if you had extended drives and put the car in Eco Pro, because it's also got stop-start, it's definitely going to pump the MPG up and the efficiency up quite high. So what about cabin noise? Well, there definitely is cabin noise, as there are with all cars. It's not that intrusive. Do I think it would get tiring after a long period? I'm not sure. Probably not. It depends on sort of, I suppose, how sensitive you are to sound, really. Has the lower suspension and the lower profile tyres, or the larger wheels, has that affected road noise? Almost certainly. But like I said, I can't compare it to a standard M140i because I haven't driven one. But I don't think it's something that anyone thinking of getting a AC Schnitzer kit or just some AC Schnitzer wheels really needs to worry about. Like I said in the introductory part of this video, this car, the ACS1, has had an ECU tune. Now the way that AC Schnitzer do that is literally just by wiring the new ECU into the original port, and that there's no sort of unnecessary cutting of wires or unnecessarily sort of complicated process. And I think AC Schnitzer even provide, I think it's a 3-year warranty. So really, it's actually a pretty good setup. And like I said, it brings the car from around 335 brake horsepower all the way to 400 brake horsepower. While editing, I realised I hadn't actually spoken about how this ECU tune has enhanced the car's performance. This screenshot is from the official AC Schnitzer website. Looking at the bottom, we can see how the limited top speed is still the same at 250 km or 155 miles per hour, but the actual top speed will have certainly been enhanced. However, the 0 to 62 mph or 100 km/h time has been reduced by 1/10 of a second to 4.3 seconds. But the real change is seen from 50 to 112 mph or 80 to 180 km/h, where the time has been reduced from 10.5 seconds to 8.6 seconds. I've got a nice flat piece of fairly empty road ahead of me, so what I think I'm going to do, you've got the window open slightly, is I'm going to put the car into Sport. 2 clicks of the button down here, the engine revs go up automatically just because the way the car is tuned for Sport mode. We can automatically hear a louder drone from the exhaust. And if I go down a couple of revs, a couple of gears, you can already hear kind of hear the sound of the exhaust start to kind of come through. Now it's a good sounding exhaust crackle. There aren't really many pops, there's not a huge amount of variability to it, but nevertheless it sounds good, and kind of like I was saying at the beginning, it is a very predictable system. So what I found is around 3,000 RPM, you don't even now need to downshift, you just need to lift off and the car will make very audible crackles and pops. So I'm at around 3,000 RPM now. And you just have to lift off, and every single time you lift off, you can hear those crackles coming through so predictably. There's no shifting down of gears required. because this car is based on the M140i, you get all of the same creature comforts that you would with that. Obviously depends on the spec of the M140i that you have. And actually going into that briefly, we can talk about kind of how it works to get your car upgraded. So essentially you buy an M140i or an M135i, or you just, oh, there's a McLaren, what's this, a 570S Spider. It's quite nice. You may see that go past. So yeah, you buy one of the M Sport 1 Series, or you just go and get a base spec SE or Sport. So like I said, it all the way down to a 114i, 116i. And then you can still do an ECU upgrade on it, so it puts it up to 150 and 200 brake horsepower respectively for those two cars. And then you just basically select what components you want, and you can go to any one of the registered AC Schnitzer UK detailers, not detailers, sort of suppliers and fitters. Then they just sort the whole thing out. You just give them your car, the bits will arrive, and you wait for a small amount of time, and then they put everything on for you. Anyway, like I was saying, because this car is based on an M140i, you still get all of the creature comforts and comfort and ease of drive that you would in just the 1 Series, really. Other than feeling a lot more squat and a lot more stable in terms of the suspension feel and the road holding, and feeling a lot more direct and placeable and predictable. And of course the sound of the exhaust, which you kind of get anyway. You know, you still have the Harman Kardon sound system, you still have these manually adjustable leather seats. In this car they're actually heated. You have BMW's iDrive system, which of course I don't think BMW make anymore, because they have what's known as BMW Operating System 7, but you still have DAB digital radio, you can still put your devices in through USB in the central column. So you still have all of the creature comforts that you would in a standard car, but just a lot more capable. And one of AC Schnitzer's main sayings is that they go beyond M. So that's the whole thing. That's what AC Schnitzer are trying to do. They're trying to go beyond M, and M is already a very impressive formula. If you look at Autocar or Evo or Auto Express reviews, they consistently get 4, 4.5, 5 stars, obviously depending on the model. So there's obviously a very good recipe. And if you look at the reviewers I've just said and their reviews of the AC Schnitzer cars, they similarly have very high ratings. And I suppose one of the things that can bring them down is because maybe in the tuner scene and with how the cars look, because of the bigger wings and the bigger front splitter and that kind of stuff, it may not appeal to quite as many people, and there may be some stigma around it. And of course you don't need to add those components onto your car. And you can have a complete sleeper. You can leave the wheels, you can leave the exterior upgrades and literally just have the power upgrade. So people who aren't really aware may think you're just driving a standard 1 Series, but then they come next to you and you're able to unleash up to 400 brake horsepower. So it's quite a potent thing, really. And changing driving modes changes the usual things. Like I was saying, the revs go up higher, so you're able to accelerate faster. This is obviously in Sport and Sport Plus mode. The sports exhaust is more vocal, the steering hardens up, it's a lot softer in Comfort and Eco Pro. So you get all those usual adjustments, but then these all come together with the new upgrades to form a more capable situation, a more capable package. Anyway, I just want to say a huge thank you to Ren Classics for letting me drive the car for the day. I will be putting out a full in-depth video on this car, and also the ACS2L, I think it's called, which is basically the full upgraded version of the M240i, and it's also a car that Shmi was able to drive in Germany, so it's also kind of interesting that we've managed to kind of test out and review the same car. Anyway, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and please subscribe for the latest content.